Clerk, the time is 6:16. I'll call this audit committee meeting to order. Town of Aurora acknowledges that the Anishinaabe lands on which we live and work are the traditional and treaty territory of the Chippewas of Eugene Island, as well as many other nations whose presence here continues to this day. As the closest First Nation community to Aurora, we recognize the special relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and as a municipality, we join them in these responsibilities. We further acknowledge that Aurora is part of the treaty lands of the Mississaugas and Chippewas, recognized through Treaty Number 13, as well as the Williams Treaties of 1923. Shared understanding of the rich cultural heritage that has existed for centuries and how our collective past brought us to where we are today will help us walk together to a better future. Council, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Councilor Thompson, second. Councilor Gallo, comments or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. 2 items, 6.1, 2022 audited financial statements and audit report. We have a presentation to be provided by Maria Ushnud, partner, KPMG Private Enterprise. Maria, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Right, just get organized a little bit. Hey, well, thanks for having me. Nice to see some of you again.
I just need you to get a little bit closer to
Closer.
Yeah.
Is that better?
That's better. Yes. Thank you.
There we go. Okay. All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Maria Kushnud. I'm an audit partner in KPMG's enterprise practice in the GTA. I'm here today to provide you with an update on the audit findings report related to the financial statements for the town of Aurora for the year ended December 31st, 2022. In the interest of time, I will take this report as read. I understand there's a time limit on my presentation as well, so I'll try to speak as quickly as I can. I'll start on page 4, which is our audit highlights page. Yep, that's the one. So these highlights summarize the significant aspects of the audit and provide a good overview. Maybe I'll provide just point out some of the key items here. So in terms of the status of the audit, at this stage, we've substantially completed all the audit procedures, necessary audit procedures, except for items that are highlighted on page 5. These are standard items that should be outstanding at this point due to the approval process of the financial statements. So nothing really out of the ordinary in terms of what's pending. There were no significant changes from the audit plan that was communicated to management earlier this year. All of our audit procedures were completed based on the materiality that was communicated as part of our audit plan. Our materiality is covered on pages 6 to 8. Materiality was set at 3.1 million for this year's audit, and the audit misstatement posting threshold was 157,000. So that threshold really is the amount that we use. If there are any errors or adjustments, if they're higher than that amount, we bring them up to you for reporting. There was a restatement of certain comparative balances as a result of error related to joint fire hall construction project with the town of Newmarket. The details of this restatement are noted on pages 11 and 12, but essentially, if I could summarize it very quickly, the error is related to the town recording not only their own portion of the fire hall, but also the portion that pertains to Newmarket. In addition, the cost sharing receipts were recognized as revenue rather than receivable, and then ultimately cash from Newmarket. Our audit team has completed detailed audit procedures to gain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence related to the restatement adjustment. We've reviewed the cost sharing and other relevant agreements to ensure our understanding is correct related to this restatement. Our audit opinion is not modified due to this restatement. In other words, we're still issuing a clean audit opinion. The only thing is we'll be adding a paragraph in our audit opinion to indicate that certain comparative balances have been restated. If you want to take a look at the note in the financial statements that captures this restatement, that's note number 2. There are no uncorrected audit misstatements to report. There were corrected adjustments that have been included in the management representation letter that management currently has. These pertain to revenue recognition for Safe Restart funding as well as deferred revenue, and that's noted on page 14. These errors pertain to recognizing revenue when criteria for revenue recognition was not necessarily all met. These corrections have been made in the draft financial statements that you're reviewing today. Since this was our first year of audit with KPMG, we're required to complete a review of the predecessor auditor working papers and complete certain communications with them. All of these required steps have been completed, and there's nothing significant to report in this regard. As required by the auditing standards, though, we have included a paragraph in our audit opinion to indicate that the prior year financial statements were audited by another audit firm. Also noted on this slide is that we did not identify any unusual or fraudulent transactions or any significant control deficiencies that we would like to report to you today. There were no new accounting standards that came into effect this year, but there are quite a few that are coming into effect next year. The heaviest one being the asset retirement obligation standard. It would be a heavy lift for all municipalities just because of the big tangible capital asset balance that municipalities generally carry. It's a complex one, so I would encourage council to support management in adopting the standard. There are some additional standards which are, I would say, lighter lift in terms of the amount of effort that is required, and these are all included in the appendix if you want to take a detailed look. There was one new auditing standard that came into effect for the current year, and that is CAS 315, which is risk assessment standard. And really what it requires auditors to do is get a deeper understanding of the underlying processes that are in place, regardless of whether the auditor decides to take a controls-based approach or a fully substantive approach. We've held many discussions with town's finance and accounting team to make sure that we implement this standard appropriately for the town, and there were no issues that I want to talk about in terms of this standard implementation. On pages 9 to 17, we've provided you with details of our procedures related to significant areas of the financial statements, and we've provided you with a summary of our findings. I'm not planning on covering them in detail. If you have any questions, I'm happy to address them. With that, we get into the appendices, which I would leave for you to review at your own time. If there are any questions, again, I'm happy to address them. I do want to take a moment to thank town's financing and accounting team for their support during the audit. First year audits are never fun. It's a lot of work for us and it's a lot of work for management, but I really do appreciate all the support that we got from them. With that, I open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Council, the recommendations that report number FIN 23-031 be received, and 2, that the 2022 audit reports and financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2022 be approved and published on the town's website. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councilor Gilliland, Councilor Thompson, any comments or questions to the report or to the presentation? Councilor Gilliland.
Thank you. I had a question about and this is just referring to the slides, maybe it's somewhere buried in here, but you did talk about the Safe Restart funds and that you had discussed some solutions to fix the error, but you never really brushed on what it was that you actually came to in order to mitigate that and correct it.
Maria, if you want to answer, I can go to Rachel if you want. Do you want?
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Ms. Maria Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we worked very closely with Maria and her team. And what came out of that was the Safe Restart funding was a bit of the complication of the timing of some of the revenues and the revenue losses as a result of the pandemic relating to the restart of the Armory lease. So the original budget was done before we had a modification to that lease, and the entries were done in accordance with that budget that was set. And it's more of a timing issue overall. So we'll be taking a closer look at this as we move forward into the next couple of years as that lease rolls out. It's basically just a timing issue, and it's a matter of some of the details. The staff didn't have the detailed reports from the closed session that would have substantiated the adjustment.
Councilor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate obviously some closed session as well. I did note here that there was no loss of revenue and that the proposed adjustment was agreed upon. Does that mean that we've offset this cost somewhere else or allocated it differently through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Wainwright McKessel?
Ms. Wainwright McKessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we reversed the deferred revenue. So essentially it sits back in the deferred revenue line rather than being taken into income. So it's an adjustment to the surplus under the full accounting rules, but basically from a budget perspective, it would be sitting in the reserve to be used in the future.
Counselor.
Thank you. And through Mr. Chair, when you're saying sitting in a reserve, does it still have to apply to the SRF contribution? Like, is it specific to what we're utilizing that for then, or no?
Ms. Wainwright McKessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So since it is a provincial grant, it does need to meet the requirements of that grant. So it is a safe restart funding. So we are going to take a look at for the original purpose for which it was used. Like I said, it was a timing issue. So if there's timing is affecting future years, we're going to have to adjust accordingly. And then we'll do that evaluation. If there's remaining funds after that, then there's an opportunity. If there's any other pandemic recovery items, we could put it towards.
Perfect.
Counselor.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Counselor Gardner.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. So with respect to under audit risks and results,
Counselor. Yeah, thank you.
audit risks and results, the SRF grant revenue to recover a lease loss revenue. I'm not sure I understand that. If you could.
I think that was just answered.
Yes, I
Counselor.
know, but could you make it so I can understand it?
Ms. Wainwright McKessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it relates to the timing of the armory lease. So
Right.
the original budget was done based on the original lease. There was changes to that lease that happened in 2022 through closed session, which resulted in this adjustment having to be made.
Counselor.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Yeah, thank you very much. Council, next we have the 2022 year-end operating capital results as of December 31st, 2022. Recommendations that report number FIN 23-029 be received for information. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Councilor Gallo, Councilor Reese, any comments or questions on this one? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Reese, Councilor Thompson, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.